Welcome to Whiskey One, the channel for the novice, the curious, and the connoisseur. I'm Whiskey One, and today, oh yeah, I'm very excited to try the latest and greatest from Law's Whiskey, the Cornerstone. So stick around. Whiskey fam, sit down and grab a dram, listen to the soothing sounds of your boy Whiskey One talk a little whiskey. I'm very excited because this is the latest release from Law's Whiskey, and this is now their fourth release of the Origins Series. And if you are a fan of Law's, you know just how special those releases can be. I think the first release was around 2020, 2021. I'm sure some of you may correct me. Drop a comment below if you have the very first release. But this is now featuring a rye whiskey, and I'm a super fan of rye. Full disclosure, this was gifted by Law's Whiskey. You can find this bottle directly at the Law's Whiskey House and at their tasting room. So I'm already into the bottle. I've shared it with a few friends because this is something special, and I definitely didn't want to hoard it and hog it all to myself. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it, shall we? All right, now you may notice another bottle of Law's Rye next to it, and that is my frame of reference. And you might be wondering why. This Cornerstone happens to be a blend of 9 different barrels, different age statements, different proofs, of course, all at barrel strength. But what I wanted to do was get into Cornerstone, you know, talk through it, see what it reveals, and then towards the end of the video, what I'd like to do is get into the Law's San Luis Valley Rye cast strength, which is close in proof. That one happens to be at about 59% at least, so, you know, close to 120 proof. This is at 57.5, so less in proof, but again, close enough. And this happens to be a 5-year, if I'm not mistaken. But we're gonna go ahead and get started with this one, and I'm just gonna tell you one thing. If you are unexperienced with Law's Whiskey, one of the things that'll just jump out at you is the flavor and the aroma that jumps out at you when you pour it. Immediately, I get a rush of Telltale Law's Rye. I think some folks have different categories when it comes to flavors that they expect from a rye. One of those can be, say, eucalyptus. You know, Canadian whiskey happens to have a good amount of eucalyptus flavor to it. You know, if you get like a Kentucky or an Indiana style of rye, they tend to be a little less eucalyptus and more like anise forward, baking spices. Some refer to as like fresh cut grass. And that is a certain style of rye whiskey that is synonymous with that area. But talking about Colorado rye, this is something very different. It's neither of those things, and it happens to be something a little bit more on the tobacco side, more on the fresh crushed mint leaf side. So let's go ahead and get into this sucker. So cheers to all of you watching, and hopefully having a dram along with us. On the nose, man, yep, that Telltale Law's Rye, the fresh crushed mint leaves. Now in particular, what I've sort of picked out that is fairly unique to Law's Rye as well is lemon cake. And I don't know if you guys have ever indulged in lemon cake. You know, lemon meringue sort of stands out, is a common example, but I'm specifically talking about that fluffy lemon cake with the topping on it. Oh man, you know, the one that Mom made? Like that. But going back to it, man, that is nice. I do get cloves, I do get cinnamon, I do get tobacco, which is really nice and sort of predictable at some level with some styles of rye, but the Colorado rye tends to have a little bit more of it. So going back to it, another thing that kind of jumps out is like dark chocolate biscotti. I don't know if you've ever had that. Some of you might be wondering what the heck I'm talking about, but if you're a coffee lover, biscotti is just something common that you have, and it's got that dark chocolate, black licorice feel to it. Very minty, like I said, but it's also got these like layers that are floral. All right, well, cheers to all of you. Let's have a little sip. All right, so I try not to judge on first sip, so I'm gonna go right back into it for a second sip, again, just to kind of acclimate my palate. All right, now, for those of you watching, you might notice me rolling the glass from time to time. All that does is it helps coat the inside of the Glencairn, really get the aromas to jump out, really coat everything so that everything that I'm like nosing and tasting really starts to pop and jump out at me. But with a whiskey like this, I really don't have to do that very much. Like I mentioned before, the aroma, the rye, the character of it really jumps out of the glass. And just on that initial sip and then that follow-up sip, the rye spice builds up. It definitely has that tobacco leaf, you know, more of that biscotti, but a lot of dark chocolate notes, leather, you know, and it has, you know, your clove, your anise, and your cinnamon. My experience with Law's Rye is that it's refined. It's not something that's just cookie cutter. They don't really like cut corners. That's one of their pet peeves. It's really one of their credos, right? Is that, hey, when we make whiskey, we want to make quality over quantity. And when you drink Law's whiskey, certainly you get that with every sip. Now, I need to have another sip because as I was thinking about this video, as I was thinking about what I would say as I'm sipping with all of you, is that this is part of a journey, right? Laws has built this legacy of craft over commodity, sure, but as a supporter of Law's whiskey and tasting whiskey over the years, right? This isn't my first bottle, it's not even my second bottle, but understanding like where they started and where they've come to really helps me to appreciate just how special this Cornerstone bottle is. So I'm gonna take another sip and then kind of talk through like my overall thoughts and impressions on this, because it is special. Cheers. All right, so the nose segues right into the palate, where you get a lot more lemon cake. It is floral, but again, those layers and layers of floral aroma really kind of jump out now. And that's where this starts to open up. If you're new to whiskey, I always recommend that you guys pour. Give it about 5 to 10 minutes before you really jump into it, before you start to judge. But I want to specifically highlight a few things about this bottle and Law's whiskey. So this is a blend of 5 to 10 year whiskey. I'm going to leave some info down below just to kind of highlight exactly what the percentages are, the different age statements. But this is a blend of 9 different barrels, all at barrel strength, of course. But what you see is a little mix of the youth, but also, right, that experience. The time in the barrel is not something that you can cheat. And funny, not so funny, is there are brands out there that will try to cheat the system. They will try to cut corners. They're gonna try to put something out that isn't quite ready. And you know what? You're gonna taste it, right? And you don't even have to be like an experienced whiskey drinker. You could be a complete noob and understand that some whiskeys just don't taste right. But when it comes to this bottle, this is one that is certainly top shelf. I'm not just saying that because I got the bottle, but there is some nuances to this that is very different just off of experience alone from their other ryes. Because it is a blend, like this makes it that much more special because it does include some of their oldest stock. And Law's Whiskey hasn't exactly been around forever. This is not a brand that's, had its namesake for the last 50 to 100 years. This is not some Scotch company that's been around for a long, long time and passed down from generation to generation. These are technically still up and comers, right? They just haven't been around forever. But for the short amount of time that they have been around, they've done it and they've done it right. And my hat's off to those guys. And the fact that when you visit Law's Whiskey, and this is something I'm actually gonna mention several times throughout my journey, is that they treat you like family, right? They remember you. If you go to the whiskey distillery and you go on a tour or you get a chance to go to their barrel house, they're gonna remember you the next time you show up, and they'll probably even remember you by name. And that's hard for us to say from those of us that have been to distilleries and you just sort of feel like you're lost in the crowd. You're just another number. With Law's Whiskey, it certainly feels different. You feel like family. I highly recommend that you guys visit Denver, and when you go to Denver, you gotta give these guys a try. Go to their tasting room, get to meet their staff. They're very knowledgeable, and you walk away feeling like you're another part of the family. I wanna taste this against the cask strength here. Again, this is a 5-year. Oh, and by the way, I hope I'm not cheating here, because one thing is, this is a Whiskey One Glencairn, and you guys all know when you drink whiskey out of a Whiskey One Glencairn, they just tend to taste pretty good. They taste better. But we also have these Glencairn covers. So if you're a supporter of the channel, thank you. We really appreciate you stopping by and continuing to show us some love. But let us know that you would like a Glencairn cover. We have the turquoise, we have gold, and we have the black Glen covers. But this certainly comes in handy. I let this sit out for a little bit, let it air out, just so I could compare it to something that was comparable. So this is the cask strength. Cheers, all of you watching. Let's see what we get out of this. Okay, on the nose, just not as much lemon cake, not as much chocolate. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. Oh, okay. All right. This has got a lot more minerality, a lot more tobacco, like sweet tobacco leaf, a lot more leather, but that clove, that cinnamon really jumps out. And this is just a couple notches higher in proof, not a lot. I mean, these are really close to each other. But I'm gonna take one more sip, and then I'm gonna go back to the Cornerstone. So cheers again. All right, not so much of that lemon cake on the taste, right? As compared to the Cornerstone, but you certainly get like a lot more molasses and sweet notes. You get the dark chocolate, but this feels a little bit more on the sugary side, right? It's not as semi-sweet chocolate, it's more like caramel and salted toffee, but certainly sweet. But I'm gonna cleanse the palate, and I'm gonna get right to that Cornerstone. And if you guys are watching, I highly recommend adding a few drops of water if cask strength whiskey is just not your jam. It doesn't hurt to proof it down, Me personally, I prefer the higher proof stuff. I'm a bit of a proof hound, but you know, to each your own. You know, set that Glen cover right there. So let's get right back into the Cornerstone, and I'm gonna reveal my final thoughts. Immediately, there is a difference. There is a difference between 5-year cask strength and Cornerstone. And the thing that jumps out is when you pick out those flavors, everything seems to be in its place, but it feels very balanced. And I think that might be the thing that is a bit different immediately, is that with the cask strength, right? Certain aromas just really jump out and they're very dominant, at least at first. But with the Cornerstone, there's a nice mix and play of everything, and everything is just where it needs to be. It feels refined. I think for, again, anybody that is into Lost Whiskey, and if you're a fanboy, like I happen to be, this is gonna be a no-brainer. You're going to get the bottle anyway. 100%. But if you guys don't know much about Lost Whiskey, and you're wondering, is this the bottle for you? Well, I will say this. In my opinion, this speaks to the whiskey connoisseur. That's who I feel like this truly speaks to. Somebody who's going to appreciate the nuance. They're gonna like going out of their way to get the special bottle, right? The bottle that is gonna be appreciated over time, appreciated with friends, and closely examined, like a guy like me. But I think you certainly will enjoy it. I highly recommend that you go to the tasting room and give it a try. They'll have it available, so a try before you buy. Now, here at Whiskey One, it's no secret, I am a Laws fan. I feel like I'm part of the family. And for those of you guys watching, you guys can be the family, you know, you guys can be family members of the Lost Whiskey House as well. They have a Gargoyle Society. If you're interested and want to know more information about that, message me, hit me up. If you want to know more information about how you can get a Whiskey One glass and a Glen topper there, or Glen cover, hit me up as well. I would certainly love to get your support, but as far as I'm concerned, the Lost Whiskey speaks for itself. It's not something that I have to really like sell to any of you guys. I think that anybody that's in the mood for a rye this time of year is gonna be really, really into something special. And now that the holidays are right around the corner, this is something that you certainly wanna indulge in. Get something for that special family member or friend in your life, right? Now here at Whiskey One, it's about the one you enjoy. Cheers.